Chapter 49 to 55. Being ridden with spears all over his body, Iwamoto had difficulty in breathing and there were only few words he could muster. I, cough wheeze, my pre-wheeze, monet cough, premonition, gulp, was correct, why you, cough are a threat wheeze. Kuroto, who was sitting on the ground while covering the wound on his right leg with one hand, gave a death stare to Iwamoto. Bastard, you are still alive. Judging from Iwamoto's chakra reaction, he still has high vitality, so his current weakness may just be a disguise. Iwamoto continued weakly, Heh. You're being a little too cautious, kid, won't you come here and give me a good ending? Kuroto has also experienced a shinobi war, he may still be green but he is not an idiot. He thought suspiciously, he wants to lure me to approach him. Not giving any time for Kuroto to consider, Iwamoto suddenly broke free of the iron spears, all the injuries and holes in his body were covered and filled by mud, and he unexpectedly ran away deeper into the forest, leaving Kuroto flap his mouth like a fish in a dazed state. He wants to escape. Kuroto was taken aback by Iwamoto's unexpected action, and secretly cursed, Bastard. Come back here. You think I'll let you escape? The secret of Kazakage's puppet can't be leaked, so without any thought, Kuroto stretched out his hand and used rain will pull with all the chakra he could muster. Under the huge pulling force of rain will pull, Iwamoto could barely struggle as he got attracted towards Kuroto. Regardless of the injuries on his body, Kuroto used the gossip palm strikes on Iwamoto with all the strength he has. Tuck. 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 In the muffled sound of palm strikes, the whole forest now returned to silence. From the touch Kuroto felt while delivering the strikes, he could be quite sure that Iwamoto didn't have the opportunity to use skin and muscle hardening jutsu, so this time even if he couldn't crush Iwamoto's heart, the lungs were completely damaged. As he expected, Iwamoto's body fell lifelessly at his feet. But just as Kuroto was about to take a breath of relief thinking it was finally over, Iwamoto on the ground suddenly jumped up, and wrapped himself around Kuroto like a koala, as he muttered in a hoarse voice, Young genius of Konoha, I'll take you to the Pure Land with me. Hiss. From the hissing sound of ignition, Kuroto realized that this bastard has altered his body by planting many detonation charms under his skin that can be ignited at any moment by directing chakra through them. This didn't come into Kuroto's perception as it was covered with various seals. Looking at Iwamoto's calm face, Kuroto suddenly had an epiphany. From the beginning, since Kuroto was led into an ambush, this bastard never once thought of fleeing in this battle. The only reason he even pretended to escape was so that he could get close to Kuroto for the final suicide attack. Boom boom. Boom 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 boom. A rain of explosion swept the whole forest in shocking disturbance as the resulting impact raised the surrounding area into meters-long burnt hole, with no signs of life left. Only smoke and fire were left and the whole forest was shaking due to after effects. On one edge of the forest, Shursui has solved the last ninja under the effect of genjutsu with his umbu sword. Currently, 9 corpses were already lying around him and only one of them was a member of beheading unit while the rest were all wandering shinobi. Just as he sheathed his umbu sword, a violent explosion shaking the entire mountain came from the other end of the forest. What happened? In a fit of astonishment, he hurried over to the site of explosion. On the other end, Kakashi pulled out his right hand covered in the lightning of Chidori from the enemy's heart that was nothing more than a corpse now. While panting heavily, he also looked in the direction of explosion. Based on the experience as a shinobi he has had up to now, Kakashi can judge this is not the result of some mere jutsu or detonation charm. As a result, his face was gloomy, because he is quite sure that none of his teammates have any such attack method. Even if he was suffering from chakra exhaustion, even if he didn't have much strength to continue fighting, but he didn't hesitate and limped towards the site of explosion because those who abandons their comrades are worse than scums. On the last battlefield, Guy clutched his injured left arm with a serious face. Being in the siege, he was less worried about the battle in front of him but more about his other companions of class 11. Even if wanted to go after them, the enemy wouldn't let him, and this also made him realize that the others would be in the same situation, which made him more worried. But the sudden violent explosion that shook the entire forest attracted the attention of both sides. Guy's heart sank, he was having a bad feeling about this. Seeing the explosion, even the beheading unit ninja's face changed greatly, and suddenly ignoring the slightly injured Guy, he led the rest of the wandering shinobi towards the site of explosion. Guy was stunned because of this, but he took a calming breath and followed after them in the same direction. Site of the explosion. After the dust settled, Kuroto's figure slowly appeared. He glanced around calmly and sighed lightly. At the final moment, Kuroto used Revolving Heaven along with expelling chakra from all his tenketsu, following which he used Rain Will Push to send Iwamoto as far away as possible and used a combined Iron Sand Wall along with Revolving Heaven Jutsu to make a protective shell that covered him from all the direction and took the whole burnt of the explosion. The damage around goes to show just how threatening the explosion was. Even with the several layers of defense of combined jutsu, Kuroto still suffered some injuries merely from the resulting vibrations and heat of the explosions, leaving him in a very embarrassed state. On the other hand, there is not even a single bone left of Iwamoto, only a half-burnt and broken forehead protector fell on the ground while Kuroto repelled him. Kuroto dragged his injured leg and picked up the broken forehead protector. As a sign of his respect for the enemy, Kuroto decided to keep it as trophy. In this battle of life and death he won. Ha 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 ha, cough cough, ha ha ha, cough. No matter how injured or burnt Kuroto was, but he was still laughing. This laugh was not because he is a battle maniac or loves the thrill and adrenaline rush of life and death battle. No. It's because of the joy he is feeling. Not long ago, he was just a ninja that could even be ignored if necessary. He was a threat to no one, not many would even bother taking him seriously. In short, he was just a pathetic ninja who could be easily killed. Someone on whom jonins like Iwamoto would even be reluctant to waste any chakra to kill. And today, Iwamoto died in his hands. He did everything to kill Kuroto, even relied on such a large-scale suicide attack, but all for none. At the end Iwamoto died in his hands. This feeling of power was what made him laugh. His heart was full of emotions. Of course, this was also his first battle against an elite jonin, so even if he had to rely on sneak attacks and cheap tricks to win, his performance in this battle was still remarkable. Of course, not counting those embarrassing situations he had to go through under Iwamoto's deceptive actions. While still thinking about this and that Kuroto suppressed his laughter and put away the Kazekage puppet into a scroll and sat cross-legged on the non-damaged ground, bandaging and medicating his injuries, his face was calm as if he was only tying shoelaces. While Kuroto was busy wrapping his wounds, a group of shinobi arrived in front of him with the member of the beheading unit as their leader. Their total number was 8. After a short inspection of the ragged battle site, their leader immediately shouted towards Kuroto, who was still not perturbed by their arrival or number. "Damn brat, where is our captain?" shouted the rock ninja. However, there was no reply from Kuroto as he continued wrapping his wounds calmly, completely ignoring the others. Kuroto's actions were putting a lot of psychological pressure on the wandering shinobi as traces of sweat started coming of their forehead. Nobody dared to make a move on him even if ignored them, because for some reason they all had a feeling if they rushed to attack, only death would await them. Kuroto was silent and the enemy was also silent, only the sound of breathing could be heard. Even the birds didn't dare shit in this place. Finally, after a full 2 minutes of silence, when he has completely wrapped all the wounds, Kuroto got up and said lightly, "Don't worry, you'll meet him soon enough." And without even waiting for the enemy to react, he rushed towards them without the slightest hesitation. In the battle against Iwamoto, there are many things that Kuroto learned, but his biggest gain is the fearless heart of the strong. 3 days later, inside a cave in the country of birds, the 4 shinobi of class 11 were sitting around the bonfire, eating, chatting, and discussing. It has been 3 days since their battle against the rock unit in the country of bears, since everyone except Shisui was more or less injured, so Kakashi decided to take a short break in the country of bird. As for what happened in the final battle against the wandering ninjas, you ask. It's obvious. Although Kuroto was quite injured but still had enough strength, and after their battle with Guy the enemy ninjas were also injured, not to mention Shisui and Guy soon arrived. After killing all the enemy ninjas, the 4 people gathered all the information about the ambush attack, only to find that in addition to the 4-person team of rock beheading unit, there were a total of 24 wandering nin from the country of bears that participated in the ambush. Of the total ambush party, their captain Iwamoto took the initiative to deal with Kuroto, and the remaining 3 members of the beheading unit led 8 wandering nin each, after Kakashi, Shisui, and Guy. Iwamoto was an elite jonin. There is no doubt that the remaining 3 members of the beheading unit were also jonin, and the wandering nin also had the strength of above genin class. If you think about it, this was already a powerful force. What's more, the battle started from an ambush, so for class 11 to even make it out alive would have already been a big achievement, not to mention they annihilated the enemy force. Among the 4 shinobi, Shisui had the easiest time eliminating the enemy. With the Manjikyu, even ordinary genjutsu attacks are much more dangerous, so the rock ninja that went after him didn't even get the chance of casting any ninjutsu and died without putting up any resistance. Without the command to lead them, the wandering nin also died one after another in the same way. From Shisui's description, it seemed all too easy that the other 3 of the class 11 kind of felt depressed. Kakashi's performance was only slightly inferior to Shirsue's. Because his body cannot bear the burden of Sharingan, so even if he has the largest chakra among the four, it's continuously consumed by the Sharingan, which is why even an A-level ninjutsu Chidori is too much for. Therefore, after the battle, it is normal for him to collapse. Guy's fight was not very interesting. This is also natural, as no matter how much effort he puts, Guy still hasn't grown up, so his natural strength is still not very high. Unless he uses 8 gates, it is difficult for him to go against 1 Jonin plus 8 near Chunin class ninjas, so him managing to stay alive is already more than one could ask for. In Kuroto's opinion, his performance wasn't bad either. The only part that makes him depressed was that he was being led around by the enemy for most of the battle, and the fact that he was deceived by Iwamoto at the end, that put him in an extremely dangerous situation. He still gets a cold sweat thinking of that suicide blast. This battle gave Kuroto the understanding that he is still too green. He may have gained the strength, but he isn't experienced enough to use it effectively. Kakashi didn't agree with Kuroto's thought as he shook his head and bluntly denied, in Konoha, very few people can kill the leader of beheading unit. So, your performance is actually more than just impressive. Kuroto asked curiously, why? Is he that dangerous? I mean, I know Iwamoto is dangerous obviously, but he can be such a threat? Of course. Kakashi nodded while continuing, as far as I know there are only 7 beheading units in the Rock Village. Of those 7, 1 units was besieged by more than 100 shinobi of our village, but almost all the shinobi of our village died in that battle. Guy was surprised. More than 100 shinobi were eliminated by just 1 unit? Kakashi nodded seriously. Well, that battle was very tragic. Although that unit was eliminated, only 7 of our shinobi came out alive. Several of the elite jonins of the Uchihas were also killed by Rock's beheading unit, Shirsue added. Guy was a little shocked and muttered, then did we do a good job? By the way, if we count the unit we just eliminated, does that mean only 5 beheading units are left? Kakashi again shook his head, no. There are only 2 left. 2 of them were annihilated by Yandame-sama and 1 was eliminated by Sandame Reikage. Hearing Kakashi mention this, Kuroto subconsciously muttered, no wonder Iwamoto had so much hatred towards Yandame-sama. Iwamoto mentioned Yellow Flash more than a few times during the battle. Only now Kuroto understands the resentment Iwamoto had towards Yandame-sama, and where does it come from? It wasn't just because of the incident that time, huh? We have more pressing issues that we need to be worried about now. I am afraid Rock Village will use this incident to cause some disturbances. Listening to Kakashi mention this, Kuroto leaned against the wall and said in a carefree manner, well, too bad. What is there to be worried about? This matter will be up to Hokage-sama. We were just defending. It's not like we could just let them kill us without putting up resistance, can we? Guy suddenly raised his hand. By the way, why did they ambush us anyway? Listening to Guy's question, both Kakashi and Shirsue turned to look at Kuroto. Kuroto only shrugged in response, don't look at me, I am not very clear either. Even Kuroto isn't very sure why Iwamoto was so obsessed with killing him. It shouldn't just be because he feared Kuroto would eventually become another Yellow Flash. Because if that's the case, then it's too dumb. And even if that really is the case, Kuroto can't come to publicize such a thing. Once such a thing spreads out, it would attract too much attention to him, the hostility of the entire Rock Village, not to mention the unwanted attention of people like Shimura Danzo. After all, Kuroto was promoted to the rank of a special jonin just about a month ago. The rapid increase in strength has already brought too much attention to him that he isn't willing to seek now. If it becomes known that the captain of the beheading unit of Rock Village came after him because he considered him a threat on the same level as Yellow Flash, then it would get increasingly difficult for him to hide the Tenseigan. Kuroto is already feeling a headache after knowing just how big of a matter being able to eliminate Iwamoto is. He doesn't have any idea how to explain this matter in the report. After all, according to common sense, a recently promoted special jonin shouldn't even be capable of competing against an elite jonin, much less being able to kill him. Sigh. Kuroto could only try not to think about it for some peace of mind. After everyone had their fill, Shirsue took the initiative to keep the watch. Kuroto naturally had no objection as his injuries were the most severe. Guy also smiled and said, you don't have to watch for the whole night, I will watch from midnight. After a few days of rest in the country of birds, Class 11 finally returned to the village, and this time there was no trouble on the route, so they returned safely. Because it was an Umbu mission directly under Hokage-sama's order, they reported the details of the mission in the Land of Demons to Sandame-sama. After hearing that the demon Morio had the strength comparable to a tailed beast, Sandaime-sama were also surprised, and that surprise only became more apparent as he learned of the ambush party class 11 encountered. By the time the team leader and proctor Kakashi conveyed all the details, Hokage-sama fell into a silence. After pondering for a long time, the details of the mission were classified as Class S secret and sealed in the confidential archive that only the Hokage could read. At the same time, a password was issued to all members of Class 11. Any information related to the mission must be kept confidential and not be disclosed to anyone. And finally, because of the successful completion of the mission, the 3 members of Class 11 were officially appointed as Umbu, which means the test was considered to have passed. Even Guy was appointed to the Umbu, which is something Kuroto can't understand. After leaving the Hokage's office, the 4 members of Class 11 went home. This S-class mission took nearly 2 months. After repeated battles and traveling, everyone was exhausted, so Hokage-sama gave Class 11 half a month's vacation. Back at home, Kuroto was lying on the futon as he recalled Sandaime-sama's reaction. From Sandaime-sama's behavior, Kuroto can conclude that the mission to the land of demons was just a coincidence, and there was no temptation. It seems that I was being overly concerned. If Hokage-sama really suspected me of being Orochimaru's spy, he could directly confront me. Why would he bother using such a roundabout method? With this thought in his mind, Kuroto let go of one worry and decided to count the gains he had during the entire mission. Obtaining purple clay, and being able to master all the Fuin techniques involved in the artificial tailed beast plan was undoubtedly his biggest gain. Earning Miko-sama's friendship and trust was another major gain. Don't underestimate the authority and prestige of the Miko of Land of Demons. Even the 5 great shinobi villages had to send their elite ninjas immediately in response to Miko-sama's request. With this incident alone, it can be judged just how high her prestige is. Being able to earn the friendship of someone like her is comparable to having the backing of daimyo, which was something that Kuroto desperately needed. At least now he wouldn't be in a situation like he did after Orochimaru's defection. Moreover, Miko-sama is also a master of Fuin Jutsu, and can provide him with a lot of professional guidance and ideas. Now the only problem to begin the artificial tailed beast plan is the chakra source. Sigh. This is also the biggest problem. Thinking so, Kuroto can't help but sigh. The chakra source Shino used for the Reibi was the darkness of a human's heart. As long as there is darkness in the user's heart, Reibi can continuously generate chakra, and the deeper the darkness, the stronger the chakra. This was also the reason why Reibi was both weak compared to the other tailed beasts and also quite unstable, as it easily possessed Shino after its previous host overcomes the darkness within her heart with Naruto's help. This lesson also verifies Orochimaru's conjecture that there should be a single source of chakra and it should not be evil or dark in nature. So, the option of using a lot of chakra sources is already out of consideration, but a single source with enough chakra is really difficult to find. Even the demon Morio is out of option. He may have the necessary volume to act as a source, but the nature of his chakra is evil, not to mention his self-awareness. Using him would only mean giving the demon a different body from his original. In essence, there would be no difference. And Kuroto isn't idiot enough to carry a ticking time bomb with him. What he needs is a source with large chakra volume, neutral chakra nature, and weak self-awareness, and Kuroto could only think of one such option. It lies in the ancient city of Rorin of the Kingdom of Wind. Ryu Mayaku aka Dragon Vein is the only best option that probably meets all these requirements. In Kuroto's impression, Dragon Vein's chakra nature may be quite gentle, as it can be controlled by ordinary humans like the Queen of Rorin, even if it may be because of her bloodline. More importantly, Dragon Vein shouldn't have a strong sense of self-awareness. As long as the right method is mastered, even the people not of the royal family of Rorin can probably use it. Using it as the source should increase the stability of the artificial tailed beast. The only problem at present is that the Dragon Vein was sealed by Yondaime-sama. If Kuroto wants to use the Dragon Vein, he must first break the seal used by Yondaime-sama. The Fuin Jutsu technique used by Yondaime-sama should be of the Uzumaki clan, but I don't even know which one he used. Kuroto frowned thinking about it. With Miko-sama's teaching, although Kuroto mastered the basics of Fuin Jutsu of the Uzumaki clan that were involved in the artificial tailed beast plan, it doesn't mean he can be called a master in Uzumaki Fuinjutsu art. On the contrary, he is currently unable to use even a single of the Uzumaki techniques, not to mention there are Kenjutsu techniques like the Dead Demon Consuming Seal. What Kuroto has learned up to now is just to follow the description in the information scroll and arrange the seals designed by Uzumakis one by one. As for the chakra running skills and the methods required to perform the complex Uzumaki Fuinjutsu, he can't do it at all. Kuroto thought to himself, looks like I'll have to go to Rorin myself to check out the seal Yondaime-sama used. Only by going there in person can he accurately judge which Fuinjutsu technique was used by Yondim-sama, and then plan his course ahead to think of a suitable method to break it. There is also the fact that Queen's blood has a very high influence on the dragon vein. When I break Yondim-sama's seal, her help might be necessary to prevent any accident in controlling the dragon vein. After making this series of conclusions, Kuroto took a long nice sleep to get over all the tiredness and exhaustion he was feeling. The next day early morning, Kuroto took some equipment and went straight to the Forest of Death. The two battles, one with Sasori and the other with Iwamoto, made Kuroto realize the importance of poisons. Kuroto regrets that he never used poisons like Sasori. In his case, even when Iwamoto was severely injured twice, he still didn't die, but if it was Sasori in his stead, even a little injury would have led to Iwamoto's death. In fact, Kuroto is no stranger to poisons. His summon beast, the one-eyed viper, has a lethal snake venom. But because of people like demigod Hanzo, when all the villages started doing research on poisons, the so-called lethal snake venom was of no effect on the battlefield. Therefore, Kuroto never used poison. So now Kuroto decided to compound a poison himself that would be useful in battles. As soon as he entered the territory of the Death Forest, many sets of memories flashed in his mind. Of course, he is no stranger to this forest. Before graduating from the Ninja Academy, there were many combat drills conducted by the teachers for all the students. So, Kuroto is more or less familiar with this place. There are many sources of poison in the Death Forest, including venomous snakes, scorpions, spiders, centipedes, moths, and even rats. The purpose of his visit this time is to obtain the poison sacs of these creatures. After searching for about an hour, while shuttling through the treetops along with collecting various poison sacs from different creatures, Kuroto's attention was attracted towards a small pond. At the small pond, a cobra was facing a baby boar. Since Kuroto needed poison from the cobra, so he decided to help out the baby boar. "Hey little guy, looks like you got unlucky, huh?" he said as a shuriken nailed the cobra's head to a tree on the side. Falling on the side of the cobra, he carefully dissected the corpse to extract the poison sac, after which he threw the corpse aside as it wasn't of very much use to him. But the baby boar that had just escaped due to the sudden arrival of Kuroto rushed back again, picked up the cobra's body, and went away, completely ignoring Kuroto. Kuroto was startled by the baby boar's action and shouted hurriedly, "Hey, you idiot, there's still poison in it." Even before Kuroto could speak, the baby boar went away with the cobra. Seeing this, Kuroto felt a little annoyed. The leftover poison in the cobra's body is extremely deadly for beasts that can't use chakra, and Kuroto can be quite sure that the baby boar has no chakra flowing through him. Eating the cobra is a death for the baby boar. But whether the cobra eats the boar or the boar eats the cobra, are all part of the food chain. Moreover, Kuroto doesn't have enough time to deal with such trivial matters, so he immediately started searching for more poisonous creatures and ignored the soon-to-be-dead baby boar while cursing him annoyingly under his breath. After a full morning of hard work, he was able to find more than 10 types of lethal poisons. Kuroto returned home while buying some guinea pigs along the way. The concoction of poison is not simply mixing different types of toxins to obtain a more lethal type 1. Different toxins have different properties. Most of the time random mixing will not only not increase the toxicity of the resulting compound, but in fact, neutralize the lethality of the poison. Therefore, the art of making poison also requires a large amount of data and in vivo experiments. Additionally, it also involves modulation, testing, recording data. This was why Kuroto was busy with this meticulous work for the whole afternoon, and still, all the results he got were unsatisfactory. The toxicity of the poison in the Death Forest is weaker. As a result, they can't even kill a lab rat instantly, so they were definitely unsuitable against the ninjas that can use chakra. However, it's not there was no achievement. At least he was able to find a moth toxin with a strong paralyzing effect and scorpion's poison that increases the rate of blood circulation. Once combined properly, they would produce an instant paralyzing poison. It's just that he has no idea on how to combine these. Additionally, how high should he keep the toxicity? Will it be effective on powerful shinobi? There are so many questions, and only further experiments can possibly give him the answer. While Kuroto was busy experimenting, Yu came in the evening, along with a hot pot. Seeing all the mess and so many corpses of guinea pigs tossed around by Kuroto, she was shocked. "Kuroto-kun, what are you doing?" Kuroto replied casually while he was busy recording the data of the latest test. As the cute rabbit in front of him took its last breath, "I'm compounding toxins." Kuroto made sure not to hide his research on toxins. From going to the Death Forest in the morning to collecting the poison samples to buying lots of guinea pigs in the market at noon, the whole series of tasks were carried out in the open. Yu squatted beside Kuroto and asked in a low voice, "Are some poisons really useful?" Yu is also a Hyuga, and similar to most of the Hyuga clansmen, she has a subconscious rejection of the use of poisons, but she is also a shinobi to have gone to the battlefield of Third Shinobi War several times and understands well enough that everything is reasonable in a war so long as you survive. Kuroto smiled while he petted her head. "Of course it's useful. Maybe these poisons I am concocting now will make sure that I return alive to you the next time I go on a mission." Yu had a sudden blush across her cheeks as she heard Kuroto-kun's blunt words and all the petting she was getting. She nodded shyly and silently went away as Kuroto grinned, looking at the cute reaction he got from teasing her. Anyway, after finishing recording the data, Kuroto tidied up and then ate the hot pot Yu brought. In addition to bringing food for Kuroto, Yu also brought a piece of news, or rather she also informed him that Hizashi-sama wants to meet him. Obviously, Kuroto can't deny this. Hizashi-sama has great influence within the Hyuga clan, and he is also the person responsible for the affairs between the village and clan, therefore Kuroto can't reject this. So, he nodded to show his approval. At night in an izakaya, Hyuga Hizashi looked at Kuroto while smiling as he asked gently, "Why to agree to meet only here?" Kuroto said casually, "Hizashi-sama must be aware that now I am appointed in the Umbu Ops directly under Hokage-sama, so it is better to keep some distance from the clan. This is good both for the clan as well as me." However, the real reason is the fear of exposing the Tenseigan. After all, members of the Hyuga clan continuously pass by while he is on the clan grounds, and if someone opened the Byakugan even by mistake, then the Tenseigan would be exposed. While here in the izakaya, the two of them are just chatting privately, naturally no reason to worry. Hizashi-sama would also not use Byakugan for no reason, so the chances of his Tenseigan being discovered will be greatly reduced. Of course, this is just him being too paranoid and cautious. In fact, because of the perception ability of the Byakugan, the Hyuga clansmen generally do not use Byakugan while in the village. After all, keeping the Byakugan activated is kind of snooping around on the ninjas of the same village, and no like to be spied on. But it never hurt to be careful. And as the saying goes, it's better safe than sorry. Well, even though Kuroto just gave the previous reply as an excuse, but Hizashi-sama was deeply impressed by his thinking, and nodded seriously. "Well, you are right to think as such. The higher-ups of the Hokage clan are very guarded against us noble clans. This fact is very clear from the recent arrangements in the village, and Uchihas aren't the only ones Konoha authorities are keeping under monitoring. The suppression of the Uchihas is also worrisome for the Hyugas." Kuroto opted to stay silent as this topic is too sensitive to be discussed here, so to divert the direction of the conversation he decided to ask the main question. "So Hizashi-sama, may I ask what is the purpose for you to meet me?" Hizashi-sama spoke seriously. "Next month, the village will initiate a vote of confidence for the promotion of Jonin. Under normal circumstances, when a special Jonin is promoted to the rank of a Jonin, it is necessary to pass a small-scale vote of confidence, and this also the reason why Hyuga Hizashi met Kuroto." Hizashi continued, "There is a senior member of the main family, currently at the rank of special Jonin, participating in the promotion test, and since you are now in the Umbu Ops under Hokage-sama, so not only you have the right to vote but your vote is also of great value, so I hope you can help in this matter." Listening to Hizashi-sama's request, Kuroto smiled and nodded happily. "Don't worry Hizashi-sama, it shall be done." Right now, as Hizashi-sama asked him for supporting the member of the main family, Kuroto really felt the change in his political status. Back when he was only a wartime chunin, let alone participating, he wasn't even qualified to have information about such things. And now, the higher-ups of the Hyuga clan are also asking him for such things. Of course, the reason why he agreed so happily is also his selfishness. Unlike the domineering Uchihas, the Hyugas have always been the calm and low-key type, so their reputation in the village has always been much better than the Uchihas, and many ninjas are willing to team up with the Hyugas. Therefore, supporting the clan is not burdensome for him. In fact, it is rather advantageous to increase the influence of the Hyuga clan and have them as his backing. After a few more light conversations, the two parties bid goodbye to each other and left the izakaya. Early the next morning, when Kuroto was going out to collect some samples of poisons in the Death Forest, a figure blocked his path. Without waiting for Kuroto to respond, he asked coldly, "Hey, kid, you are Hyuga Kuroto, right?" Although Kuroto was curious why his identity was asked, he still nodded. While playing with a kunai in his hand, the other party stated, "I am Uchiha Shinichi, and I heard that you defeated Shisui not long ago. So, I came here to have a duel with you. I want you to understand that the Uchihas are not so easy to mess around with. The name of Uchiha cannot be trampled so casually by the likes of you." Kuroto's face was indifferent during the whole time Uchiha Shinichi continued with his monologue, and after he ended, Kuroto only said lightly, I am sorry, I am busy right now so you should maybe come another time, or maybe it would be better if you don't come at all. Hearing Kuroto's light reply, Shinichi snorted arrogantly, you don't have an option here. Title, The Uchiha's Challenge? Seeing that Uchiha Shinichi wasn't about to let him go so easily, Kuroto had no choice but to agree to the challenge. After arriving at a remote grove, Kuroto glanced around and finally pointed towards a large tree at a distance, let's take this duel there. Shinichi nodded and proudly declared, I'm going to let you know this beforehand, I am different from Shisui, and I am not going to go easy on you. Oh. Kuroto nodded absent-mindedly. Shinichi was annoyed by this absent-minded reaction. It felt as if Kuroto was completely ignoring his presence. Hey, are you even listening carefully? I said I will use everything I got. If you don't pay attention or take this battle lightly, you will die for sure. Kuroto nodded helplessly as Shinichi tapped his finger on his chest while shouting, however all he could reply was, I really have something very important to do, can we please hurry this up? Damn it. Shinichi opened his Sharingan in annoyance, and stared fiercely at Kuroto, you are too ignorant kid. You have to understand the difference between the strong and the weak, today I will let you experience the true might of an Uchiha. Having said that, Shinichi quickly printed the hand seal and shouted, Fire Release, Fireball Technique. As soon as Shinichi started printing hand seals, Kuroto's figure flashed at high speed to avoid the ninjutsu attack. Under the cover of Fire Release Ninjutsu, Shinichi appeared in front of Kuroto with a quick body flicker technique, the three tomo in his Sharingan were spinning rapidly. For a second, they both looked at each other. As soon as Kuroto matched eyesight with Shinichi's, he was suddenly in a dazed state, his body stopped moving and he stood straight dropping his head blankly just like a soulless puppet. Shinichi curved his lips seeing the genjutsu attack succeed, what, so weak? How could Shisui lose to someone so pathetic? While muttering to himself Shinichi walked closer to Kuroto. In the vision of his Sharingan, Kuroto's chakra flow at this moment is extremely chaotic. This is also the state of having fallen under genjutsu's effect, so without any care, with the thought that he has already defeated Hyuga Kuroto in just a moment, he put a kunai at Kuroto's throat first, before proceeding to unlock the genjutsu, so that he can watch opponent's shocked face and humiliate Hyuga Kuroto. But just as Shinichi raised his right arm, without raising his head, Kuroto suddenly shot a series of palm strikes. Tuck, tuck, tuck. With the muffled sound of fist strikes, Shinichi fell to the ground with a shocked look and passed out. While patting away some dust, Kuroto said lightly, okay, you can come out now Shisui. Wish. As soon as Kuroto spoke, Shisui's figure appeared next to him. Shisui first glanced at Uchiha Shinichi who had a shocked face while being unconscious, then bowed to Kuroto and said with a smile, Kuroto-san, thank you for the hard work. Obviously, Kuroto has long since noticed Shisui trailing behind Shinichi. With the friendship between the two, Shisui would have notified him in advance, but since he didn't it could only mean that this all happened all of a sudden. Kuroto wasn't very worried about Shinichi but something else so he asked feeling a little troubled, this kind of troublesome thing won't happen every day in the future, right? Shisui shook his head and said solemnly, of course not, Shinichi is also very respected in the clan. This time he lost so badly, the restless clansmen will definitely wait to strategize some countermeasure. So, I guess, it should take at least a few days at the earliest for the next challenge. How can you say that with a straight face? Listening to Shisui say that there would be more people coming, Kuroto asked helplessly, more would be coming. Shisui hurriedly promised, don't worry. The elders will definitely make sure to not send elite jonins after you, at most they will be at the level of special jonin or jonin. However, Kuroto had black lines on his forehead as Shisui stated this all so calmly, so, according to your estimation I am going to be dueling against most of the Uchiha shinobi? By then, won't I get the strange title of Uchiha's Nemesis or something along the lines? Ha 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 ha, that sounds kind of nice. Uchiha's Nemesis, it's kind of funny, anyway thank you so much Kuroto-san for bearing with the actions of the Uchiha, okay bye, I'll see you next time. Giving a smirk, Shisui immediately picked up unconscious Shinichi and ran away in a panic. Kuroto hurriedly shouted from the distance, hey, don't escape, next time be sure to inform me in advance. The only reason Kuroto managed to defeat Uchiha Shinichi so easily this time, was purely because of the other party's arrogance. All he had to do was to disrupt his chakra flow, and Shinichi was easily fooled because of his overconfidence in the Sharingan. If it was someone like Itachi or a more cautious type of person, then it wouldn't have been so easy for Kuroto to win. Got it Kuroto-san. Shisui expects Kuroto-san to suppress the more and more unrestrained and domineering Uchiha clansmen, so obviously he offered to promise. After solving this matter, Kuroto's plan remained unchanged, so he went straight to the Forest of Death. With yesterday's experience, he was more familiar and comfortable with collecting samples. Today, in less than 2 hours, he had more than twice the number of venom sacs compared to yesterday. Just as he was about to return, there was a sound of bushes moving around. Kuroto stopped and searched for the source of the sound. From the direction of the sound, suddenly a baby wild boar, the same one Kuroto encountered yesterday, sprang out and looked in his direction stupidly. Seeing the baby boar, Kuroto was slightly surprised. "Huh, you are still alive." According to his guess, the poison sac still left in the body of the cobra was more than enough to kill a wild boar 10 times the size of this baby boar. So long as it eats the body of the cobra, it should have definitely died. Did it not eat the cobra, or did it remove the poison sac? As soon as Kuroto thought about this, he couldn't help but be more confused, because he suddenly discovered that there were traces of chakra flowing through the body of the boar. This is definitely different from what he saw yesterday. How come? This change was unexpected according to him. Although the wild animals can learn to use chakra accidentally, the probability of such an accident happening is very small. More often such animals are intelligent than their peers, and generally, they are strong and the old types. For such a young baby boar to learn to use chakra is undoubtedly unexpected. Is it the birth of a genius or a monster? While Kuroto was thinking, the baby boar rushed towards him and grunted. "What?" As Kuroto asked what does it want from him, the baby boar started circling around him. "You wanna play?" It shook its head negatively. "So, you understand me?" No reply. "What do you want?" "Something to eat." Grunt grunt, it makes a grunting sound as it shakes its head positively. "So, you want something to eat?" "Sorry little guy, I don't have anything." Wait, he suddenly stopped halfway and took out a small thumb-sized sack from his waist pouch and threw it towards the baby boar. "Do you want to eat that?" Wild animals generally have instincts that let them distinguishes between what's good for them and what's not, so Kuroto wants to check whether this unusual little boar he encountered will eat the poison sac. After all, the smell of this poison sac is slightly pungent, let alone eating. Ordinary animals will stay away from this sort of smell, but if this baby boar dared to eat this, then it would finally mean that he is extraordinary at least. Here Kuroto was thinking that it would at least smell what it's eating, but no. As soon as Kuroto threw the poison sac, it jumped up and swallowed the poison sac as a whole while still in midair. As the baby boar swallowed the poison sac, Kuroto decided to wait for a while and watch what happens. So, he waited, and he waited, and waited, and waited, and waited a little more, but nothing happened to the little guy as it continued nudging him at the feet asking for more. "Ha, this is kind of interesting." Kuroto smiled as he threw more poison sacs. After circling a few rounds around Kuroto, baby boar that happily swallowed a few more poison sacs nudged him a few times and disappeared into the forest. Is it resistant to poison? Kuroto contemplated and thought of an experimental plan. He has been lacking a suitable experimental subject. Although using guinea pigs like rats and rabbits for conducting tests is well and good, but they aren't ideal subjects as their poison resistance is far too weak. As such, the baby boar that seems to have strong poison resistance is a good solution to his problem. With this thought in mind, Kuroto returned home. There are two main types of poisons Kuroto is compounding. First, instant paralysis poison. Ingredients: venom powder from the crushed wings of a moth, venom from the tail of the red-tailed scorpion, and venom of the giant red ant. The venom powder of moth has a strong paralyzing effect, and the venom of red-tailed scorpion increases the rate of blood circulation as well as acts as a catalyst. The concoction of the two venom results in an instant paralysis venom. Modulating venom, A with the venom of a giant red ant will increase the activity of the resulting poison by 4 to 5 times. Second, killing poison. Ingredients: venom of one-eyed viper, tarantula spiders, giant black centipede, and saliva of the giant red ant. Kuroto's summon beast, the venom of the one-eyed viper is already very toxic. If it is mixed with other poisons and configured as a compound toxin, then the standard antidotes used by the great ninja villages would be of no use. Of course, these are just his thesis and theories. Continuous research and experimentation is the necessary process to bring these poisons into reality. So, after a whole afternoon of hard work, Kuroto prepared a total of 10 samples, of which 5 are paralytic and the other 5 are killing poison. The reason for preparing so many samples is to find out the most optimum ratio. Seeing that it was already past afternoon, he packed up all work and decided to go to Forest of Death tomorrow to find the baby boar. As of the evening, he has other plans. Uchiha Clan Grounds. Itachi, who was returning home from the academy, saw that the clansmen were gathered in groups of 2 or 3 and seemed to be discussing some things. This scene also attracted his attention, so while walking he perked up his ears and listened. Shinichi actually lost? Yes, I heard that he lost terribly and Shursui had to carry him back while unconscious. Too incompetent, how could he lose? Moreover, how could the elders and clan head allow him to go after Hyuga Kuroto if he was so weak? Isn't this discrediting the reputation of the Uchihas? Don't be an idiot. We both know that Shinichi isn't weak, he has been a special Jonin for about 2 years. In fact, I heard he was going to take the upcoming Jonin assessment, so how he be considered weak? So, what are you trying to say? That Hyuga kid is so strong. Ha! How can that be? I heard that he was just a wartime chunin a few months ago, how can he be so strong? But it stands to reason that he defeated both Shursui and Shinichi. There's only one explanation to this, I say Shursui didn't take him seriously. Shursui may not have taken the Hyuga kid seriously, but Shinichi also lost to him. If again someone of the Uchiha is defeated by him, then can't let that happen. Definitely send a strong one next time. We have to make sure that he realizes that Uchiha are not so easy to mess around with. After listening for a while, Itachi walked away with a helpless expression. Sure enough. The sure enough here has 2 meanings. First is that the Uchiha Shinichi really lost. The second is that the Uchiha can't swallow this defeat silently. Full of thoughts, Itachi returned home. While passing by the courtyard, he found his father sitting in a room while turning over some documents. In order not to disturb his father, he subconsciously relaxed his steps. At this moment, Uchiha Fugaku suddenly called, Itachi. Being called suddenly, Itachi hurriedly stood up straight. Father, I am back. Uchiha Fugaku just nodded without looking back, still doing some work, and asked in a flat tone, did you hear the rumors circulating among the Uchiha? Yes, I just heard the clansmen talking about Shinichi's loss. Fugaku nodded and asked, what are our thoughts on the matter? Itachi's talent and mature mindset are visible to most, and being his father, Uchiha Fugaku is clear about this fact more than anyone, so from a very early time, Fugaku has been training Itachi as the next Uchiha clan head. For this reason, Fugaku occasionally asks Itachi's views on certain affairs to exercise his knowledge and thinking ability to handle political affairs. Listening to Fugaku's question, Itachi was silent for a while, and after thinking a little he replied, for the Uchihas, this loss may be a good thing. Listening to Itachi's reply, Fugaku waved his hand non-committally, and said, you can go. Itachi bowed to his father and left the courtyard silently while busy thinking. Past evening. After repeatedly confirming that no one was spying on him, Kuroto shut all the windows and doors of his house. Kuroto uses the evening time to practice various techniques involved in creating an artificial tailed beast. To successfully create an artificial tailed beast, of course, Fuinjutsu knowledge isn't the only requirement, one must also have mastery over chakra shape transformation, and some ninjutsus should also be mastered to reduce any errors or omissions in the process of creation, because there would be no opportunities for modification once any mistake happens. Therefore, before officially starting the artificial tail beast project, Kuroto is making sure that he is 100% proficient in all the techniques required. But to have 100% mastery there isn't any shortcut except hard work, so taking advantage of this short vacation granted by Hokage-sama, Kuroto is practicing. Because as the saying goes, practice makes a man perfect, so as long he practices enough, 100% proficiency isn't difficult to achieve. While Kuroto was busy with all the practice and hard work, on the border of Land of Fire and Land of Hot Water, one Cloud Shinobi crushed the throat of a Konoha ninja held in his hands and said to the Jonin captain beside him, it seems that Konoha hasn't noticed yet. Yujito Ni, who was squatting while looking at the map spread on the ground, said, however, our team seems to be slower. Another Cloud Jonin approached her and frowned while looking at the map, the information sent by the spies is not accurate, this is already the fastest we can go. It shouldn't be the problem of the intelligence team. It is very likely that Konoha recently changed their defensive formation at this border. After a pause, Yujito Ni continued, forget it, continue the advancement, we must confluence with the unit led by B-san in 2 days. With Yujito Ni's order, more than 20 Cloud Shinobi dashed towards the hinterlands of Land of Fire. Early the next morning Kuroto came to the Forest of Death carrying a bulging bag. Initially thought that it would take some time to find the baby boar, but unexpectedly as soon as he landed near the small pond that seems to be the little guy's hunting ground, it suddenly sprang out from the bushes. It felt as if he didn't find the baby boar, rather the baby boar found him. As soon as it came out, Kuroto observed it. Kuroto can judge that the size of the boar is obviously bigger than it was yesterday, but several patches of hair on its torso were bitten out and bled a little, along with a bulging right eye that has gone purple. It seems this guy was seriously repaired by some other wild animal. Looking at the limping baby boar, Kuroto asked with a smile, "Who did you provoke? It looks you have been repaired quite badly, huh?" After a little bit of teasing, Kuroto put down the bag he brought along. Taking out a large chunk of raw meat, he cut them into small pieces with a short knife and laid them on the ground. The baby boar that was squatting aside, stared at the pieces of meat greedily with saliva dripping from the mouth, which Kuroto tried his best to ignore. After orderly placing the meat pieces, Kuroto numbered them one by one, then took out 5 bottles of paralytic poison and injected them into the pieces of meat numbered from 1 to 5. All 5 bottles of paralytic poison have the same ingredients, with only a difference in their composition ratio. The objective of today's test is finding out the right ratio for most toxicity, which he will use to further fine-tune the poison. After doing all the preparation, Kuroto threw the number 1 meat piece towards the baby boar. The little guy, who has been eyeing the meat pieces with pure greed in the eyes, ran over as soon Kuroto threw number 1 meat piece, and swallowed it in 2 or 3 bites. After finishing up, it again squatted on the ground staring at the remaining pieces. At this time Kuroto quickly observed the baby boar with his Tenseigan. However, the baby boar who ate the number 1 meat piece containing paralytic poison was exactly the same as it was before. There were no obvious changes in its chakra flow or muscles around it, even the blood circulation was normal. The only thing that has changed is the saliva dripping from the corners of its mouth, which seems to be more than before. No effect? Obviously, Kuroto was annoyed with no result. The number 1 meat strip was injected with not just some ordinary poison, but a compound paralytic poison that he carefully modulated. According to his estimation, even Chunin class ninjas might not be able to handle it. But here he is now. The annoying little boar is completely unaffected. After taking in the paralytic poison-infused meat piece, there is no effect at all. This was completely unacceptable. The unbelievable Kuroto threw out number 2 meat piece, and then, piece number 3, number 4, number 5. The little wild boar took all the pieces in order very politely, and after eating, there was no change except for the greasy mouth and the dripping saliva that doesn't want to stop flowing out. Seeing the little boar affectionately nudging his leg, and rubbing its saliva on his pants, Kuroto's forehead was full of black lines. This piggy boar doesn't have any intention of being a subject for the live poison test at all, and actually regards him as a source of food. Do you think that's all I got? Kuroto, who was a little frustrated having lost against a mere baby boar, took out the 6th bottle, the most lethal one, in anger, injected it into the no-meat piece, and threw it to the little wild boar. An hour later, Kuroto, who returned home, started a completely new toxin preparation project. As for the previous ones, threw them away. Even a baby boar that only seems to have a weak poison resistance can't be affected. What value does such a poison has? In the next few days, Kuroto continued making poison, testing poison, and recompounding poison repeatedly. Talking about the results, it's not as though there was no successful result. At least the little wild boar that is his test subject was fed properly to grow strong and healthy. It was another such morning of his daily routine when Kuroto had just left the house to go to the forest of death. A person was waiting at his door. The person saw Kuroto coming out, so he stood up, and said while blocking Kuroto's path, "My name is Uchiha Hiragi, you should already be aware of my purpose for coming here, so decide whether you want to start here or go elsewhere." While looking at the thin figure who is a shinobi of the Uchiha clan blocking his way, a small note that Shisui handed him last night flashed in his mind. Uchiha Hiragi, Jonin with a cold personality, good at fire release, wind release, taijutsu, kenjutsu, and shurikenjutsu, weakness, poor physical strength to match his taijutsu and kenjutsu specialty, accustomed to taking risks in kenjutsu battle, too focused on killing the opponent. Based on the description of Shirsue's note, Uchiha Hiragi's abilities are quite comprehensive. The only weakness of poor physical strength may be a serious problem in a life and death battle, but in a duel between 2 shinobi of the same village, it's not too big of a disadvantage. Not to mention Uchiha Hiragi must have thought of a way to complement his weak physical strength. It can be seen that this time the Uchiha clan has worked quite hard to win back their reputation. So, the only thing that Kuroto can take advantage of is probably Uchiha Hiragi's habit of taking a risk when using a sword, or that his mentality is easily affected by his killing intent. Thinking so, Kuroto said, "Alright, come with me." Hiragi nodded and followed. Leading Hiragi to a practice site, Kuroto said, "So what do you want to compare in the duel?" Hiragi seemed stunned. He didn't expect Kuroto to ask this, so after thinking a little he said, "Both ninjutsu and taijutsu are fine, you choose whichever you want." Kuroto smiled and said, "Then compare in taijutsu skills." Since his battle with Iwamoto, Kuroto has discovered that the Hyuga-style taijutsu may be strong but isn't effective enough when dealing with weird ninjutsu users, so although he didn't have much expectation but he still aroused Hiragi to limit their type of combat. But unexpectedly Hiragi let him choose the type of battle, and naturally, he would taijutsu skills. After deciding the battle aspect of comparison, Kuroto and Hiragi took the battle stance. Kuroto's body sank slightly, with both palms wrapped in blue chakra. Hiragi pulled out his short sword. The morning light hit the blade of the short knife, reflecting brilliant light. Wai eyes. A breeze blew by, blowing off a few leaves scattered around. The leaves whirled and floated in the air, and fell on the blade of Hiragi's short sword, and silently broke into two pieces. Looking at the short sword, Kuroto was impressed. "Nice sword." If a fine sword such as this one is in the hands of a kenjutsu master, then the effective combat power of the resulting party would increase exponentially. Even Kuroto felt a little alert from the murderous energy coming off of the sword. Whoosh! Uchiha Hiragi moved suddenly and like an after-image accompanied by the sound of breaking wind, rushed towards Kuroto. Although Hiragi's speed is extremely fast, in the vision of Tenseigan, his every movement and expression were clearly visible and moving like a slow picture, so Kuroto wasn't nervous and used the gossip palm strikes to meet him head-on. In the early morning when the morning dew has still not faded away, Uchiha Hiragi's chakra-infused short sword and Hyuga Kuroto's Hyuga-style gossip palm strike are competing for dominance. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.